In episode 6, we journeyed alongside Sarah, a single mother, who learned to let go of what she couldn't control. And in doing so, she discovered a powerful truth. Real freedom doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from choosing what's truly worth holding on to. And sometimes, the hardest thing to let go of isn't your job, your money, or your future. It's how others see you. We cling to people's opinions, as if their gaze determines our worth. We get caught in the need to be understood, validated, accepted. But if you've ever lived your life trying to prove something, and still felt empty inside, then episode 7 is the reminder you've been waiting for. Get ready for. You don't need others to understand you, understand yourself first. A deeply inspiring episode, where we meet Elias, an artist who faced rejection 24 times, and still kept painting. Not to be accepted, but to stay true to himself. Because sometimes, peace doesn't come from being understood, but from having the courage to understand yourself first. Are you living for yourself or for how others see you? Have you ever felt misunderstood? Have you ever tried explaining yourself until you were emotionally exhausted, only to be met with a blank stare and a half-hearted nod? Have you ever done something genuine, from the heart, only to be accused of having selfish intentions? You're not alone. Most of us, at least once, have felt lost in a sea of judgmental eyes. We become victims of labels, assumptions, and stories others project onto us. And then something dangerous starts to happen. We begin to live to prove something. To prove we're not wrong. To prove we're worthy. To prove we're enough. But have you noticed? The more you try to prove yourself, the emptier it feels. Because you've handed over the keys to your life, letting others decide whether or not you're acceptable. Why don't they understand me? It's a question we all know too well. But it hides a false belief. That outside approval is what gives our life value. If Marcus Aurelius were sitting next to you right now, he wouldn't pat you on the back and say, "It's okay." He'd look you in the eye and say, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Stoicism doesn't teach you to fight misunderstandings with more noise. It teaches you to let go of the need for validation. Ask yourself, who am I when I don't need to prove anything? Sit with that question, without trying to explain, justify, or defend. It might feel uncomfortable at first. Because most of us were raised in a world where our worth was linked to outside feedback. Praise, likes, support, agreement. But all of those things can change overnight. One day you're the hero. The next, you're the villain, just because someone didn't like your choices. The journey from outside in to inside out. This episode is your invitation to pause and return to yourself. Not to hide away, not to become cold, but to reclaim the power to define yourself. You might be misunderstood. You might not fit someone's expectations. You might be judged, without a chance to explain. But none of that makes you less. Because you still get to choose to live with integrity, on your terms. And that is real freedom. Here's an image to carry with you. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a crowd. Some people are praising you. Some are criticizing you. Some don't care enough to do either. You glance around. Then you turn inward and smile. No matter what they say, I know who I am. That's not arrogance. That's freedom. We'll meet someone who knows this battle well, a rejected artist. Misunderstood, labeled, and dismissed. But he chose to stay true to himself. Because he understood one simple truth. Truth doesn't need to be accepted to still be true. And neither do you. You don't need to be understood to be you. Part 1: The Story. An artist and the doors that never opened. His name is Elias. 29 years old. A painter living in Brooklyn, New York. Not the Instagram famous kind. No agent, no gallery backing him, just a regular guy with a worn-out easel. Living in a 4th-floor walk-up with low ceilings and dim light, where the only window faced a brick wall tangled in electrical wires. But in that little room, Elias lived inside his boldest dreams. He painted every day. Not for deadlines, not for contracts. But because it was the only way he still felt real, in a world that often felt loud, distant, and hollow. Like many artists, he had one simple dream: to be seen. By the time he turned 29, Elias had sent his portfolio to 24 galleries. From indie spaces in Brooklyn to high-end studios in Manhattan. Every submission was a quiet hope. Every inbox refresh came with a tiny jolt of anticipation. And then, one by one, the replies came in. Thank you for sharing, but your work doesn't align with our current direction. We're not accepting new artists at the moment. No one said his work was bad. No one mocked his skill. It just wasn't the vibe. Not trendy, not guaranteed to sell. And slowly, the questions began eating away at him. Am I just fooling myself? Is my art actually worthless? Should I start painting what people like, instead of what I feel? When the dream becomes a burden, Elias started to change, quietly. He stopped reaching for his paints in the morning. Instead, he scrolled Instagram, studying what viral artists were creating. He took notes on color schemes, composition styles, algorithm-friendly trends. And he started painting like someone trying to get picked, instead of someone telling the truth. But oddly enough, the more he tried to fit in, the more his passion faded. The paintings looked marketable. But inside, he felt empty. He later said, "I'd look at my work and think, this isn't me. But I'd still send it, hoping maybe this time they'd say yes." And then, rejection number 25. From a gallery he once dreamed of. That night, he nearly gave up. One sentence changed everything. That evening, his best friend, a photographer, came by. She didn't say much. She simply placed a book on his table, Meditations, by Marcus Aurelius. Elias wasn't into philosophy. But with nothing left to lose, he opened it. His eyes landed on this sentence: "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Marcus Aurelius. That line hit him like a hammer. Elias realized he'd spent so much energy trying to be seen as an artist. He'd forgotten how to simply be one. Coming back home to himself. The next morning, Elias cleaned his studio. He pulled out old sketches, pieces he once made out of love, not strategy. He opened his paints, turned on some music, and he painted. No deadlines, no expectations. Just a man, with a heart, trying to say something words could never quite capture. And then, a door opened. A month later, Elias was invited to exhibit at a small gallery in Queens. Nothing fancy, no life-changing moment. Just a white-walled room, a modest crowd. But to Elias, that day felt like freedom. Because he wasn't painting to be accepted anymore. He wasn't living to be understood. He had made peace with one truth. He just needed to understand himself. And be honest with that. From a man on the brink of quitting, Elias found his center again. Not because someone validated him, but because a single Stoic question reminded him. Are you living to be understood by others, or to understand yourself? Part 2: The philosophy. Not everyone will understand you, and that's okay. There's a truth we all learn slowly. And usually too late. Not everyone will understand you. And guess what? That's perfectly okay. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." In other words, you don't get to control how others see you. You can't stop people from misunderstanding you, judging you, or even dismissing you. You can't force the world to treat you the way you wish it would. But you always have a choice. You can decide how you understand yourself. You can't control how others feel about you, whether they praise or criticize, if they accept or reject you, if they celebrate your effort or stay silent. But you can control why you do what you do, the values you live by, the reason you get out of bed each morning, the actions you take, even when no one's watching. This is where Stoicism shows its quiet strength. It never promises that life will be fair. It just reminds you. You can always live in alignment with your own truth. You could be a parent, an artist, a leader, a barista, a student, a human being doing your best, and still be misunderstood. No one is immune to that. But here's the deeper truth. If you love your children every single day, you don't need to post about it to be a great parent. If you create art from your heart, it doesn't need to hang in every gallery to matter. If you live with honesty and integrity, the judgment of others can't touch your inner peace. Stoicism doesn't tell you to isolate. It doesn't ask you to shut people out. It simply whispers. To be understood by others, first understand yourself. When you truly know who you are, you no longer need validation. You stop arguing with people who don't see your path. You let go of the urge to win pointless conversations just to prove you're right. You become quiet but not weak. You walk your own path without needing applause. And here's the strange part. The moment you stop chasing approval, the world begins to shift, slowly, quietly, around you. So if you've ever been hurt by being misunderstood, judged, or miscast in someone else's story, remember this. They only see you through their lens. But you're the only one who can see the full picture of who you are. And as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Stop spending your life explaining yourself. Start living as yourself. Because the quiet power of being true to who you are will echo louder than any defense you could ever make. Part 3 Analysis. Proving yourself is a trap. Are you living to prove something? To prove you're good enough? Strong enough? Worthy of love, of respect, of recognition? At some point in life, we all do. But here's a hard truth Stoicism wants you to confront. Living to prove yourself is a trap. Because the moment you live to prove something, you've already handed your worth over to someone else. If they nod in approval, right pointing arrow, you feel at peace. If they compliment you, right pointing arrow, you feel okay. If they agree with you, right pointing arrow, you feel validated. But what if they don't? What if they stay silent? What if they walk away? What if they just don't care? What happens to your self-worth when no one is there to approve it? The truth is, public opinion never stays still. One day, they praise you for working hard. The next, they say you're too obsessed with success. You hit a goal. They ask, okay, but what's next? You live with integrity. They call you fake. You let go of something. They say you gave up. There's no finish line in the game of proving. Because you're always chasing something that doesn't belong to you. Now, Stoicism isn't against effort, achievement, or personal growth. But it does ask, are you doing this because it's right? Or because you want to be liked for it? There's a powerful difference. Living to prove, living to live right. Focused on others, centered on yourself. Dependent on external reactions, driven by internal values. Easily shaken by criticism, steady, even when misunderstood. We live in an age of noise. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone's trying to define who I am through social media. Accomplishments, arguments. But sometimes, the loudest message is the quiet strength of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. Someone who walks forward, not because they're being cheered on, and not because they fear being judged, but simply because it's the right path. Don't try to be liked, try to be honest with yourself. Stoicism doesn't say, don't care about people. It says, care about the right things, in the right way. Instead of asking, do they like me? Ask, am I living in a way I respect? Are you working from kindness, not to be labeled a good person? Standing firm in your values, not just trying to look strong? Forgiving yourself, even when no one else does. Freedom doesn't come from being admired, it comes from being real. Peace doesn't come from everyone understanding, loving, or agreeing with you. It comes from not needing those things. To keep being you. Because in the end, fame will fade. Recognition will rise and fall. But dignity, the kind you build within, will stay with you for life. Proving yourself is a sweet-sounding trap. The more you chase it, the further you drift from who you really are. So come back. Don't live to win the crowd. Live to win the war inside. That is the real victory. Part 4 Practice. 4 questions to help you understand yourself. There's something strange that happens when you sit alone. No social media, no emails, no meetings. No one watching, no one judging. Just you and a blank sheet of paper. In that moment, there's no one to impress. No one to win over. No one to prove anything to. And that's when you finally start to see yourself clearly. 1. Why am I doing this? Out of fear or out of love? Elias, the painter from our story, used to create, not from love of art, but from fear of being forgotten. Fear of being seen as a failure. Fear of not being accepted. Are you doing something right now, not because it brings you joy, but because you're afraid of what happens if you don't? Ask yourself each morning, what I'm about to do today, does it come from love or from fear? If it comes from love, go forward. If it comes from fear, pause and examine. 2. Who am I trying to become, and why? It sounds simple. But answer it honestly, and it might bring tears. We carry so many roles. The perfect son or daughter. The ideal colleague. The strong father. The woman who's not allowed to break down. But who told you that's who you need to be? Are you chasing an image without even knowing why it matters? Try journaling this. If I didn't have to prove anything to anyone, who would I be? That answer might just be your true self. 3. If no one saw what I'm doing, would I still want to do it? Would you still write if no one ever read it? Would you take care of your body even if no one complimented you? Would you be kind if no one was watching? This question cuts deep into your motives. If your fuel comes from external validation, you'll burn out the moment it disappears. But if your fuel comes from within, You'll live with consistency, freedom, and peace. Write this in your journal. What would I still do, even if no one knew? 4. What part of me is real, even if no one sees it? Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Let go of the endless explanations. Let go of hoping others will understand. Just become the person you know is right, even if no one claps. Ask yourself, what value will I not give up, no matter how misunderstood I am? Maybe it's honesty, compassion, resilience. Write it down, keep it close. Because when you're grounded in what's truly you, you're no longer at the mercy of how others see you. The act of writing is the act of returning to yourself. Writing every morning isn't about becoming someone great. It's simply about not getting lost. In a world full of noise, writing is how you hear your own voice again. Like Elias, like Sarah, like the thousands who have sat with a journal and a pen. You don't need anything fancy to begin the journey of self-understanding. You don't need to get it right. You don't need to sound poetic. You don't need anyone to read it. You just need to be honest. Have you ever written just to understand yourself? What did you discover? Try journaling these 4 questions today. Subscribe so you don't miss the final part. Peace isn't out there, it's in how you see everything. Part 5 Conclusion. When you stand firm, the world adjusts. Elias didn't need the art world to get his paintings. He didn't need everyone to approve of his abstract style. Sometimes dark, sometimes confusing, and often not very marketable. He didn't wait for someone to pat him on the back and say, "You're on the right path," because he already knew. He wasn't painting to be understood. He was painting to understand himself. And you? You don't need to be understood either, to be you. You don't have to be right in everyone's eyes to feel worthy. You don't have to keep explaining who you are, how hard you try, or how good your heart is. Because if you live each day with honesty, integrity, and clarity, you'll stop being shaken by compliments or criticism. Be the one who knows, even if no one else does. Be the one who knows who you are, even if no one else sees it yet. Peace doesn't come from being accepted. It doesn't come from people looking at you with approval. It doesn't come from likes or followers. It doesn't come from your parents' nod, your boss's praise, your partner's reassurance, or the internet's applause. Peace begins the moment you stop trying to prove. The moment you sit down and stop straining to become someone other than who you already are. When you're grounded, the world adjusts. When Elias stopped trying to please the market, a gallery opened its doors. When you stop trying to force understanding, people start to understand you. Not because you demanded it, but because your energy, steady, clear, and unwavering, creates space for trust to grow. Because you're no longer anxious. You're no longer silently screaming for approval. And others can feel that, without you saying a word. Living is a journey back to yourself. Back to what you believe is right. Back to who you are, without the roles, without the masks. Back to your own heart, the one that doesn't need an audience to beat loudly. Elias found himself, not when he became famous, but when he no longer needed fame to feel complete. You might not be the loudest person in the room, but if you know yourself, you'll be the one with the most presence. You might not be the one everyone talks about, but if you're living truthfully, you'll never feel empty. Because when you live from within, you've already won. We've now walked together through 7 episodes, each one a glimpse into real life. And if you've made it to the end, take a moment to hug yourself. Because you've just completed a deep journey inward. Key lessons from the whole series. 1. Episode 1: The Power of Not Reacting. Peace begins where emotional reactivity ends. 2. Episode 2: No one's coming to save you. And that's good news, because it means you can start saving yourself. One step at a time. 3. Episode 3: Pain is the teacher. Adversity isn't your enemy, it's your training ground. 4. Episode 4: This too shall pass. Memento mori, live deeply. Because every moment is a gift. 5. Episode 5: Silence is strength. Choosing not to react doesn't make you weak, it's the mark of self-mastery. 6. Episode 6: Not everything matters. Letting go is not giving up, it's choosing freedom. 7. Episode 7: You don't need to be understood. True peace starts with understanding yourself. Now if you're asking, where do I start? Start by writing down what you can control today. Start by not reacting, just for 1 minute. Start by forgiving yourself. You don't need anyone else to agree. You don't need to understand every Stoic teaching. You just need one small action, to lighten your heart and ground your mind. Suggested actions. Write down 3 things you're ready to let go of. Write down 3 values you want to hold close and live deeply with. Sit quietly for 3 minutes, no phone. No distractions. Just be with yourself. And if there's someone you care about who could use this reminder, share this video with them. Let the Stoic journey ripple beyond you. Thank you for being here. Not everyone chooses the inner path. But you did. And that choice matters more than you know.